how in the world could you have ever for a second thought that like Edward was a better choice? Hey Ghoster Squad, welcome back to our spooky oasis. I wanted to try something new today and I hope you guys will enjoy it. So, I accidentally binge watched the entire Twilight Saga movie series in one day, well, 1.5 days. And I couldn't help but just want to fangirl so much over it. I have so many thoughts, and I figured maybe I could do this little like get ready with me while I do my makeup and just fangirl with you guys. In the past, I have had a very hard time multitasking and I start to like either do my makeup or talk. So we'll see how this goes, but if you do see any weird edits, it's because your ghoul can't multitask and I'm trying to just like make it the best experience as you're watching the video. Before we get started, if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name's Mandy Spooks and this is our spooky oasis, and I live my best spooky life so that you can too. So if you love Halloween, spooky pop culture, or spooky stories, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Alright, so I'm just gonna get right into it, or I'm just never gonna start. I do want to show you guys my cute Casper mirror before I get started, and then set the preface that I had not watched the entire series in a very long time, like in years. I did read the books as a teenager, went to all the movie premieres, but I have a really bad memory, so I can't even really remember what the differences are between the books and movies anymore. But watching the movies again as an adult was a wild experience, and I just really can't wait to fangirl, so let's get into it. First off, we have Twilight. And I'm gonna try to go in order with like initial thoughts of each film, and then we can go over like just crazy reactions I had. So, first, Twilight, it is no secret that I never talk poorly of filmmakers, but I really, really hated the directing in the first Twilight movie. I feel like it just really ruined the directing and the acting was really bad. I'm not gonna lie. The color correction was really bad. And it just, I think they tried to go like an indie film route, and it just did not work for the type of audience for this film and how massive this franchise is. And it really upsets me because I feel like Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart got such a bad rep for such a long time about their acting skills, and time has shown that they are actually really good actors, you know? So that's my first gripe to pick with the movie. I always love that as a teenager, I was hardcore team Jacob. Like, I was a ride or die team Jacob fan. There was a hot minute as an adult where I became like team Edward. And it's hard not to be Team Edward. I mean, he is so freaking hot. As in, like Robert Pattinson, don't get me started. But Edward himself, I've just always had a gripe to pick with him about how he handles the relationship and how self-deprecating he is. So there was a hot minute where I was Team Edward when I rewatched a few years ago, but now that I saw it again, man, I'm still Team Jacob. I'm Team Jacob Ride or Die, and we're gonna get into why. But I do love the banter between Edward and Bella. I think in the first movie, it's the best because you get to experience like how she's not sure like why he hates her or is disgusted by her, and then you're also seeing the dynamic of them just like getting to know each other. And I freaking love the scene. I always talk about this. I love the scene where they're in the classroom and they're both checking each other's work, and they're like, it's anaphase, mind if I check? And then like they're just going back and forth, and I just love the chemistry between them. I will say Jacob's wig was absolutely horrible in the first one. Alice was such a cutie. Like they did, like her entrance was just so perfect. I think overall I love all the characters. I don't have anything bad to say. And like I said, with the first film, it really truly just came down to direction. It's unfortunate. And I was even telling Mr. Spooks, man, I hope one day we become so successful that we can remake the Twilight movies. Very unlikely, but man, a ghoul can dream. Okay, so moving on to New Moon. I'm gonna digress. I love the music in this series. Like the entire all the soundtracks were just like so spot on, and I'm sure all of you will agree. Um but I especially love the New Moon soundtrack. I think that one's my favorite from all of them. Like I love the like I don't know. I just love all of them. I could talk about each of the songs. But this one is really where I feel like the book, I remember this clearly because I was hardcore team Jacob. I feel like the movie did not do justice to Bella and Jacob's relationship. Like in the book, you really get to know Jacob and you feel that deep connection that she's starting to have for both of them. And I don't know that you really feel that in the movie. And I guess it's because they know like where they're gonna take it. But that's my main gripe to pick with it is I just feel like you don't really get to experience how she feels. So when she is seeing Edward and stuff, right? You're seeing all of that in New Moon and you're getting super attached to like the idea that she just wants that like hit from him. But they're not really showing like how she really is developing feelings for Jacob at that time. It's very focused on the whole like Edward hallucination thing in the movie, and I feel like the movie really lost that part of her developing feelings for Jacob. I absolutely really love the scene where she goes to the movies accidentally with just the two boys with Jacob, and I think his name is Mike. I can't remember. I was so shocked going back, or going back to rewatch them because I tell you, it had been freaking years. So I literally like gasped when Jacob lost his shit on Mike after he comes back and like interrupts their moment. And I just like I had completely forgotten about that scene. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Jacob, chill out." But I just love Jacob. Like, everyone talks about how toxic Edward is when you go back and like watch the movies as an adult. And my overall takeaway is that the reason we are unhinged, spooky, alternative gothic girls is because of the Twilight books. Rewatching these movies as an adult was absolutely crazy. I was like, I can't believe that I read and watched these stories come to life as a teenager and thought that like all of these things were absolutely okay. And I don't mean like the toxicity of it. I'm talking about like the parts where Bella's back is nearly broken by a demon, no, not a demon, half mortal, half immortal child. The things that happen in the final movie, like, I don't know. It's no wonder why we love freaking horror because of these films and books. But I'm digressing. So back to New Moon. The reason I always hate on Edward, and yes, he is toxic, but I don't think, unpopular opinion, I don't think it's any more toxic in 2025 than I thought it was back when I was in high school, and maybe I was just mature for my age. But I always really hated that Edward always was like so self-deprecating that he never put Bella's feelings truly first. It was always about like what he wanted, and I really hated that he left her. Like I really hated that, and Jacob was always so consistent about how he felt for her. I'm sorry if the sound is weird because like I keep putting my hand in front of the mic and stuff. Um but yeah, Jacob was always consistent. He never ever strayed from like being there from her even when it hurt him. Like he was the most loyal friend and partner ever. And I was rewatching this like this weekend, right? And I was thinking, oh my god, it makes so much sense that Jacob is so loyal because he's like a dog, like man's best friend. They're loyal, they're your companion. And like that really is how Stephanie Meyer wrote his character through and through. Like he never strays from being there for Bella, except when finally he finds out like she's putting herself in danger. So that's why I'm Team Jacob. And also, when she discovers that he's a wolf and she sees him for the first time, I was watching the film and seeing the wolves. The wolves were done so freaking well. Like, you can see an immediate change in production quality as soon as you start New Moon. But those wolves, oh my gosh, they were done so well. They're so cool. And I was just thinking, okay, my whole life I've known deep down I'm Team Jacob, right? Girl, if you are a dog lover, you get it. Like, how could you ever choose this cold, pale man that never puts you first, that is always like selfish about his feelings, that gaslights you, that abandons you? How could you put him over having the option to just like cuddle with the biggest dog in the world and also get the perks of having him as a human? Like, I just don't understand. I have a very passionate take on this. Like, Bruce is the best dog in the world to cuddle with. He is so cute. He's so fluffy. Like, I cannot explain the amount of love that exudes from Bruce. And I always wish, like, he was a bigger dog, but then I couldn't handle him being a bigger dog. So yeah, I'm just like, how in the world could you have ever for a second thought that, like, Edward was a better choice? I said what I said. So this is the perfect moment for you to drop in the comments. Are you Team Jacob or are you Team Edward? I actually asked my friend Liz. She's the ghoul that I went to coffee with, and she was like, I'm Team Charlie. And then, like, the more the movies went on, I was like, okay, I have realized that I think I'm Team Carlisle now, but still, I would put Jacob above Edward any day, or all the time. I would take Jacob over any of them. Also, New Moon, the ending, I really just was like, okay, this is actually kind of really silly. Like, really, like, just the whole miscommunication that happens on how, like, Edward thinks that Bella's dead and Alice thinks it. Like, I don't know, the whole way that it unraveled was just kind of like silly to me. And I'm like, okay, you guys are being kind of ridiculous. Um, like, can anyone just like slow down and communicate for a second? That was my only like hot take from New Moon. And then we have Eclipse. And Eclipse is probably like always the fan favorite because of the Switzerland scene, the snow scene. So with Eclipse, I always forget what happens because New Moon and Breaking Dawn are so like engraved in my head. But I think it's where Victoria's after Bella, and then the vampires and the wolves work together to help her. So, or protect her. So this one is crazy. Okay, so all of these things, everyone always talks about like how toxic Edward is, and I'll admit, like, it's pretty toxic of Jacob to just like go for it the way he does when he kisses her. But I don't know, I also just feel like, again, it's like so wild, like how confident and just like how determined he is, that he's like, you're gonna ask me to kiss you again. And this is where Edward finally gets to show his maturity a little bit, because like so many people will argue that, well, he is mature because he knows like the right thing to do is protect Bella and all of these things, but by gaslighting her, abandoning her, like doing all of those things, I don't know. Like, if he was really that mature, he would have just like stayed away from her. Just saying. But I think in Eclipse is where it really shows, and he understands that Jacob is the better option for her, and that she needs to explore those feelings. And it like kind of stings and hurts you when he tells Jacob, like, I don't know how she feels about you, and he just has to trust that by like letting her figure it out, she's gonna come to the right decision. So I do really love how he allows her to explore those feelings and figure it out. But then it's also funny how like he's this 100-year-old man that should be mature, and he still like goes behind her back to like he like lets it slip and says that Jacob deserves to know that they're getting married. But I'm also just like, that's not like the best time for him to find this out. Like, you guys still have to protect Bella. You guys are vulnerable in this scenario. Like, why couldn't you just wait until after everything's settled to give her the opportunity to like say that? And I think that's almost like his way of retaliating against the fact that she kisses him. I think it happens before that. So, or wait, or does she kiss him because she needs to calm him down? Dang, I can't even remember. But regardless, it's just like Edward does so well of being like mature about like letting her figure it out. But then the minute they're engaged, he decides like Jacob needs to know. So that's my hot take on all of that part. And then we move on to Breaking Dawn Part 1. So Part 1 is the wedding and the honeymoon and the pregnancy, and then it ends with Bella, I think it ends with her opening her vampire eyes. And then part two is when the stupid relative girl sees Renesmee and is like, I'm gonna go report them to the Volturi, and then they're like prepping to save for the Volturi, or like prepping to battle the Volturi. So part one, I'm not gonna lie, I have always freaking loved part one. Like, the wedding is absolutely gorgeous. As an adult, it's purple. I wasn't obsessed with purple as a younger girl. So seeing all the purple, I was like, oh my god, is my like 25th wedding anniversary gonna be Twilight themed? Just kidding. um, just kidding, but not really. um, it's so gorgeous. I absolutely love, love, love how they convey Bella's like insecurity walking down the aisle. Like, I have a horrible memory, but there are some things you just never forget. And when I read that book, I always understood and like resonated so much and really loved how Bella always communicated that like she just did not feel confident as a human, that she's like stumbled through life. They conveyed that so well in the movie, from like book to movie. And she talks about how she has always felt like not confident and insecure, and like she's just not meant to be a human. And the book talks, like, there's a part in the book where she's walking down the aisle and she's like so insecure and everything, and then the minute she sees Edward, she just like is so confident and comes into herself. And I just felt like that was so beautifully conveyed in the movie. And then the honeymoon is just like absolutely hilarious, because it's like the moment that we all waited for four freaking, or through three freaking books, to come to. And I was telling Mr. Spooks, I'm like, Twilight is the reason that girls are so suppressed and turning to all of these spicy books, because Twilight never gave us what we wanted. Stephanie Meyer did us dirty, and now we're all like just seeking the like payoff from that when we're reading romance books as adults. So Breaking Dawn is done so well, and then I really love the honeymoon scene. Oops, I triggered Siri. That's how excited I got. So then I love the honeymoon scene where she's like so frustrated. Um, Afterwards, because they finally do have their scene and she's having her moment of bliss, which is also conveyed very well. I think every girl has experienced that feeling of afterwards, how you're super happy, and then again Edward just like completely ruins the moment, like always self-deprecating, always just like never listening to her and just respecting how she feels about a situation. And he just totally ruins it. And then not long after, we find out that she's pregnant. And whew, that did not age well in 2025. Like, immediately, like how he just decides and tells her what's gonna happen. Not demure Edward. Horrible situation. And I'm glad that he comes to terms with it and eventually says, in I think towards the end of the movie, like, I haven't been your partner through this. And it's like, well, yeah, like, you just decided for her what was gonna happen, and then you abandoned her when she had her own opinion about it. Guys, I think I'm like very much anti-Team Edward now as I'm talking about this. Like, I love him, and I like, there's moments that I really love them, but as I'm talking through this, I'm like, oh my god, I just keep talking myself more and more out of being Team Edward. um so yeah, and then the way that the pregnancy progresses, I was just like, dang, and no wonder that so many women don't want babies either. Like, this, I was just watching this and I was like, what were we thinking as teenagers, that like all of this was like totally normal? And I'm still enjoying it, right? Mind you, I started Twilight on Sunday night with Mr. Spooks. Actually, I finally convinced him to watch it, and he obviously did not like it, especially from a like cinematography filmmaking perspective. And I was like, please, 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 let's watch the others. Like, I promise the first one is just not done well. Like, it was all the director, it gets better. And he was like, okay, I'll watch them with you slowly. And I was like, slowly? No. Like, I am ready to sit down and watch all of the three other movies in one day. And he was like, I can't do it. And I was like, all right, enjoy your alone day, because I'm going to be glued to the couch watching these movies. And I would do it again even this weekend. However, I am very much realizing, like, okay, like, I think we were maybe a little too young to process how crazy some of these things were. And also, I like not just the spicy stuff. I'm just convinced that this series is the reason why so many of us grew into having spooky lifestyles, because it was just completely normalized. It was so popular, this franchise, that it was totally okay for girls to love vampires and werewolves and the supernatural and be intrigued by it, and yet alone have a baby with a vampire. Like, it's just absolutely nuts, that entire storyline. I just can't get over it. And I'm like, how would we feel watching these movies today, like if they had never existed? I think they'd be a lot darker. And if they were darker, how would that sit, like how would that settle? I don't know. um but that scene with Bella has always traumatized me, when she's like, when the baby's literally eating her alive and she's like literally skin and bone. They did such a good job with makeup in that in that like section of the film. And then when she drops the cup and her back breaks, mortifying. Like, that's probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can't believe that we saw that. And yeah, and I did always feel, I'm getting a little ahead, so let's get into Breaking Dawn 2 part 2. I've always felt like Renesmee just looked really weird. Definitely CGI, did not age well. It just wasn't done well. It's so, I'm curious to see, like, I know there's a new show coming out. I don't know if it's going to be a cartoon. See, I'm so excited. I already stopped doing my makeup. But I just always thought that that part was done really weird. And I guess that's the point at the same time, though, because even the vampires can't process what she is. Like, that's how weird it is. So I'm curious to see if we ever do get to see a remake or in the show how they're going to do that part. And then Jacob imprinting on Renesmee. It's so hard to say her name. It, like, I'm so happy that Jacob got his happy ending. Like, he really deserved happiness and to have like his own thing, and it definitely like all makes sense when it all comes together. So Stephanie Meyer did such a great job of planning these books out, because I really believe that she did plan this ending, because of the way Jacob even explains, like, it all makes sense now, like why things had to be the way they are. And I agree, like, that was just done so well on Stephanie Meyer's part. Like, wonderful storytelling and structure and planning. A ghoul can dream to be at that level. So, yeah, I really love that part. I still wish we would get a new series about what happens between Jacob and Renesmee. Like, I need a reboot. I need to know what happens in their story, you know? Like, I think people would eat that up. Like, what are you sleeping on, Stephanie? Write that. And then we have to talk about, I'm going to pause for this part because I'm almost done getting ready anyway. We have to talk about the freaking scene with the Volturi at the end. Guys, I had forgotten that all of that is a vision that Alice is showing. So if you've forgotten somehow, Alice comes up to the Volturi and says, like, I want to show you, um I I don't remember what she says, but she basically says, like, I want to show you what will happen or whatever. And then it plays out like if it's continuing, and Carlisle's head gets chopped off by the main Volturi guy. And I've always seen the TikTok where people are like, the way everyone gasped at this scene, and I gasped and I was just shocked. And then the way everything played out, and then with Seth dying, I think that Seth did die in the book, if I remember correctly, and then they like fixed it in the movie so that he doesn't end up dying. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. It's been a hot minute. I kind of want to read the books again now. And I was just so shocked because I forgot that it was all Alice showing him what will happen if they do decide to fight. So it was like a roller coaster for me rewatching this. Okay, I had to do my eyes for a second because I need full concentration for that. Anyway, I think that wraps up most of my thoughts on like the team Edward versus Jacob discussion. Something that I kind of did dislike too, though, about the film was like Rosalie wanting to like pass her values on to Bella, like just because that's what she wanted. doesn't mean that that's what's right or wrong. It just means that that's what she would have wanted, you know? So again, I just feel like everyone is putting their own beliefs and what they want from Bella onto her versus just like letting Bella decide what she wants for herself. And I feel like even Jacob to an extent is doing that, right? Because he's like, you could have a real life with me and like we could grow old together and they could have kids together and all these things. So that's my biggest takeaway from the book is I guess the story itself, not just the book or the movie, is that I just, as a woman who has also had to deal with that, I hate that like Bella had to deal with that at such a young age. And even when she does get married, how the girls are like, she must have been pregnant because like who else gets married at 18 years old and stuff. So yeah, that's my little roundup of Twilight. I'm honestly pretty shocked that I, for the most part, kind of made it through the right timing on all four movies. I'm just gonna slap on my lipstick and we'll be close to ready. Ooh, okay, I think the light is too bright for the makeup that I just did with this lip, but it is what it is. Anyway, that wraps up all my thoughts on Twilight. I would still watch them again, not judging anyone. Please let me know in the comments if you are Team Edward or Team Jacob, because I just need to know, no judgment. I obviously have some very passionate thoughts, but I had a lot of fun doing this with you guys. I had not had a fangirling over spooky pop culture moment in a hot minute, so if you guys want more like this, please let me know in the comments down below because I would love to do more casual fangirling with you guys, whether it's doing my makeup, making my coffee, whatever it is, driving in the car. And if you do want more, if you have any suggestions on what you would love to hear me fangirl over, let me know. I do get to talk a lot about horror movies specifically on Not Another Spooky Podcast. So if you love horror, be sure to check that out. Every Monday there's a new episode. But that weird realm between like normal and horror is spooky pop culture, which is like Twilight, The Craft, Wednesday, The Addams Family, Beetlejuice, all those things. I don't have like a space to fangirl anymore. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure, if you haven't already, rewatch Twilight. It's on Netflix. Take advantage. Until next time, sending you ghouls and kisses. Bye!